Hey there, Shooby-Doodlers, how are you doing? I have finished the first draft of the first book of a trilogy that I am writing that I've been hinting at over the past couple of weeks. I mentioned before that I reached a point where I thought, I've written so many books that, maybe it's time to give up. And I just didn't really kind of feel inspired. And as soon as I'd made that decision, I felt better. And then, this plot came smacking into my head. And I thought, no, leave it alone. It'll go away. But he didn't. And I started making notes. And I soon started drawing sketches for the characters. And one thing and another, it just kept going. And then I started writing, and the writing kept going. And I have finished the first draft. And during the whole thing, I've been thinking, what am I going to do about it? I reached out to a couple of publishers, and something has gone on because of lockdown. Millions of people have been stuck at home thinking, I'll write a book. And having written a book, they sent it to publishers. The publishers have got millions of books. So publishers have committed themselves to loads of books, and they are kind of blocked up for the next 2 or 3 years. I have a problem there, is that this project needs to get going, and I can't hang about waiting for publishers to make their minds up. So what I have to do is publish it myself. That makes me kind of feel, I have been a published author for 35 plus years with major international publishers. When I started, the term self-publishing was a joke. Because what it usually meant was somebody would get 1,000, 5,000 books printed, fill their garage up with it, shed, whatever, attic, ceiling, bending down, and those books would end up there for the next 20 years until they died and somebody had to clear them out. And it was called vanity publishing, because when you publish yourself, it's quite easy to write a book. It's really quite easy to print a book. But to market a book, that is the really, really hard bit, to actually sell copies. I have self-published quite a few titles, and honestly, they are a little bit disappointing in terms of sales and reach. And when I think about it, some of them certainly were vanity projects. They were things that I just wanted to get out of my head and clear away. And I had never really expected to make vast amounts of money from them, and I certainly didn't. They probably didn't even cover the cost of my time. So why do I want to go ahead with this? Well, today is Tuesday the 8th of November. In a week's time, Artemis should be launched and sailing off. Probably it'll have been in orbit and should be kind of heading off towards the moon, and that is so exciting. It has rekindled, the child in me that was mad about the Apollo space mission. I know there were millions of kids like me who were inspired by Apollo, but I really, really was. I cut out newspaper headlines, pictures from wherever I could. I knew all about Mercury, I knew all about Gemini, I knew all about Apollo. I was actually given a proper official NASA flight manual for Apollo 11. If I only had that now, it would be amazing. I do see them on eBay now and then. So I was a real fan, and I was really disappointed when the whole thing kind of fell apart. The TV wasn't interested anymore, and I was thinking, what don't these people understand? This is going to the moon, and then they stopped the whole thing. And I got sort of a bit bored with it. But now they're going back to the moon, and I think it's the moon that really fascinates me. I have also noticed there is a kind of a newfound interest amongst kids in the idea of space and going to the moon. So, there's the whole Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos thing going on, as well as NASA. There's this urge to get to the moon and then on to Mars as well. So the Artemis Orion mission is what has really kind of inspired me to get going with this project. Originally, I thought it would be a single novel, and then once you start thinking about self-publishing, other things come into play, particularly the weight of the book. Originally, I thought it's going to be a middle grade book, 20,000 words tops. I thought, I can't fit this all in there. If I went and made the book bigger, it would start getting heavier. And then you start going into new postage levels, and the postage starts getting silly, especially if you're sending books abroad. So I've been a little bit manic worrying about the weight of paper. Traditionally published paperbacks are published on quite a pulpy kind of paper, and it's quite light, and it's really designed for the trade and for sort of posting and to keep the books light. If you publish print on demand, which means that you print one book at a time, so you haven't got a garage full of books, then they use a much heavier paper, and the books weigh quite a lot. So I was doing some costings online with that, with Ingram, who run Lightning Source, and it suddenly came up with a new paper. And so I sent off and said, could you send me a sample? And so it's called Groundwood Eggshell, and it just feels like a normal paperback. And that kind of threw me, and it's not any more expensive, or it's not particularly cheaper. But it does mean that if I were to send out signed copies and things like that, then it would be much cheaper to post, and so become a more realistic thing to sell off my website. While I was on vacation, I woke up one morning and thought, this story really breaks into 3 definite sections, and I thought, that's the way to do it. It's going to be a trilogy. And so that's what I'm doing now. So I've just finished writing the first story. If I'm going to do it as a trilogy, then that means there will be 3 books together. So my plan is over the next year, 18 months, is to have 3 Kickstarter campaigns to launch the titles. I will start off with a limited edition printed by a traditional paperback publisher. And that means then this has this lovely matte finish to it. It's a very soft vinyl-y finish, but then I can have spot varnish on the front, which means you pick out areas to make them shiny, to stand out a bit. And also I would have the edges sprayed, and not just sprayed a colour, but you get it sprayed like it's going through an inkjet printer. And then on each one I can have a little design, because it's space and things like that, have stars and things like that, and then an image builds up as you put the 3 books together to make them a kind of collector's edition. And I've been looking at videos of how to make slipcases. So on the last Kickstarter, I will also be offering handmade slipcases to make it a completely individual limited edition in a slipcase. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you get notified every time I upload new videos to help you improve your creative skills. Each book will be signed and numbered. Ideally, I want to respect people who have got in first so that they will get the sort of number 1, number 2, number 3. And somehow I want to be able to offer them the same numbers next time. So that gets complicated. I have to think about that. And then I need to think up extra rewards to encourage people to want to join in and back the project. Now, the one thing about space missions is they always have these really cool badges. So I have been working on the badge designs. I started off just kind of mucking about in Adobe Illustrator and having a go, and I thought, yeah, there we go, great, there's a design. Oh, what can I tell you about this story? So it's about a boy, okay? He's going to be the first kid on the moon. That's all I can tell you. And how does he get to do that? He goes to this school, which is an international space school, and he becomes part of Generation Moon, which is what the kids are these days, I think, because in the next 10 years there's going to be a moon base, there's going to be people living up there. This is a whole new generation that are going to be heading off to live on the moon. So I thought, big G and a picture of the moon, and there we go, there's a patch and there's a badge, and I sort of cut them out, stuck them on my wall, and after a while I thought, they're not very good. And I was looking at lots of NASA space badges and think, well, what is it that makes them up? And then I spent a bit more time developing another design, which I'm much more happy about. And then I had to go and send this design off to various embroidery places and get quotes and work out what the weight might be. Is weight. When you're doing a Kickstarter, it's all about weight. And can I add that? If I add that, I'm going to have to take that away. And, what can I offer that comes in sort of basically under 250 grams, including the envelope, the packaging. So I found some lighter packaging as well, which is quite useful. It needs to be special though. This is the thing. So I've got quotes and I thought, yeah, this is going to work. This is going to work. They're not going to make a one-off sample for me until I put in a big order. And I'm not going to do that until I do a Kickstarter. So I got myself some transfer paper, which is sort of iron-on t-shirt design stuff. And ta-da! I've created these little patches, and I spent all evening watching the TV, embroidering around the edges to get that nice sort of overlock kind of finish to it. So it looks good to photograph for the Kickstarter project. I obviously can't use NASA, so I have invented the space agency. All around the world there's the British Space Agency, the UK Space Agency, European Space Agency, the North American Space Agency, but there isn't the space agency. So I have created that. And you can see here, this is my little embroidery hoop. This is my little embroidery hoop to keep it tight while I'm doing the embroidery around the edge. And this is the kind of logo and space agency, so we can have it on the coat. And last week you may have seen I got my flight jacket, which Crispin Dry in the comments pointed out is reversible. If they crash land, you can reverse it and they'll see you a mile away in the helicopter. So the next thing to do is to get my patch. Sew that on there, get the space agency on there. I think the space agency is going to go somewhere on there. And I got another patch I've ordered coming across there, which has a little Union Jack, British flag, and it says International Space School on there. This is partly to get me in the mood of writing and sort of like I'm part of the mission. So this is also part of the whole promotion of the thing. And whenever people ask me about self-publishing, I always say it's easy, but it's relatively easy. But it's the marketing that is the really, really difficult thing. And that is what I'm really going to throw myself into this time. Marketing is not advertising. Marketing is something completely different, and you ideally want to start your marketing before you ever start your project. Marketing is deciding who your market is, creating the product or writing the book for that market, and then sort of putting everything in to find the market and let that market know. It's not a thing you do at the end. So you can see I've done a lot of work already, thinking about the planning and how it's going. And this is all part of the marketing. And I'm thinking of all sorts of things all the time. I got a whole little notebook here of, sort of to work out costings and things like that, but also marketing ideas. So when on the actual day that I launched the Kickstarter, then I think I will do that live, have a little party, and hopefully you will all have sort of come along with me and thought, yeah, I want to be part of that. And a big important thing about Kickstarter is getting people to commit right at the beginning, because it just gets things moving and gets a sort of a sense of belief going, and other people then come in and go, oh, let's have a look at this. So I kind of want to have an live online party where I will launch with a 10, 9, 8 and press the button to make the Kickstarter go live, and hopefully everybody will sort of crash the website as they commit to becoming part of the project. There's another thing that I often say about Kickstarter. It is not asking people to fund a lifestyle. It is asking people to fund and kickstart a project to get it going. So a successful Kickstarter for me is to have lots of people having joined in, and then to end up with a stock of books that I can then start sending out to TV stations, I don't know, sort of all sorts of people, anything to do with space that I can think of, TV personalities, whatever, saying, please, would you read this and, maybe give us a quote. And I've never done that before. And that is marketing, You've got to get people talking about it. And if you were thinking of doing a book yourself, you would have to do this yourself. So partly what I'm doing is sort of sharing the experience to show you, to make you think, no, I never want to do that in my life. That's too much hard work. Or to make you think, yes, I get it. I see what I have to do. I've recently had quite a few people contact me and said, you wouldn't be my kind of publishing mentor. And I thought, no, I just don't feel I can really do that. But I think if I can sort of bring this whole thing off, then maybe then I can actually start saying to people, okay, if you need a hand, I feel more qualified to do that now. So one thing I often say about Kickstarter, it is not about funding a loose lifestyle while I sort of get the thing together. It is to create and kickstart the project and get it going. And that means that I need to do my bit to show you that I'm serious about it. So I've done all this work so far. I've written the story. Next, I need to kind of lay the whole thing out, work it out and illustrate it. I've done quite a lot of work on the characters. The next thing for me to do is to just let the story ferment for a couple of weeks, and then I'll go back to it and have a really good edit and a think about it. I think it's a kind of thing that could go on Netflix or Amazon. I feel it is something that has movie potential. I can't approach Netflix. I need to have an agent, so I have an idea for that in mind. To make the whole thing really work, I need to eventually go out to the Bologna Children's Book Fair and sort of go around there hawking it, trying to sell international rights for different languages and things like that, and try and be a proper publisher. And I am going to share all this with you. I'm going to share the my sketches. I'm going to share my planning. I'm going to share the illustrating with you, and share the whole sort of kickstarting and marketing process with you. So this is what I'm really going to be doing over the next 18 months. I'll still do other drawing stuff. Don't forget, Draw Stuff Real Easy. I do stuff over there once a week as well. I haven't really told you that much about the story, and of course I don't really want to, because I want you to be itching to get a copy when eventually I'm ready. So thanks for watching, and in the meantime, keep bated breath and anticipation. I will see you next time. You take care now. Bye bye.